I'm Amber. I'm the Associate Sales Engineer here at Greenshades. I've been with Greenshades for around 4 years now. Presenting with me today is Hannah Walk. She's our Tax and Compliance Product Manager, and she's highly knowledgeable about tax and compliance needs. So for today's agenda, we're going to start off by discussing some common payroll errors and how those errors can be avoided before actually processing. Then we'll discuss keeping accurate records and maintaining compliance throughout the year, and finish off the discussion with how we can leverage technology for payroll management. We'll finish off the webinar with a Q&A session, so if any questions come up throughout the webinar, please feel free to submit them so we can address them at the end. And I do want to start off with a quick legal disclaimer. The content in this webinar is not formal legal advice. You should always consult your local counsel as well as your organization's legal and accounting teams. Today's webinar is intended to provide a high-level overview of the year-end forms process and how we can help you out. Greenshades partners with My HR Counsel to provide customers with affordable online and on-demand legal advice. Now we can discuss some common payroll errors. When processing payroll, at year-end, it's pretty common for payroll admins to notice that they have missing or inaccurate information, Social Security numbers or EINs that may not be accurate, imbalances between their W-2 and 941 totals, under or over withholding amounts, incorrect calculations in previous runs, or mishandling of corrections throughout the year. The best way to address any of these issues is to take action before processing. Effective HR management begins with onboarding. So during the onboarding process, HR admins are going to want to ensure they're collecting all the necessary information to remain in compliance. They'll want to make sure they're collecting federal and state W-4 information from new employees immediately on hire, and it's recommended to verify Social Security numbers using the E-Verify system. Assigning employee classification correctly is important to ensure employees protected by the Fair Labor Standards Act are compensated appropriately regarding wages and overtime. One easy way to help ensure employee information is accurate at year-end is to provide employees with a self-service option to update their personal information as needed. It's especially important for those 1095-C and W-2s that employee data is kept accurate. Providing employees with a self-service portal where they can make quick updates to their personal information and sending out periodic reminders to update any information that has changed is a great way to ensure everything is expected at year-end. Another thing employers should be aware of is any updates that may need to be made to employees' W-4 information when personal or financial situations change. If an employee needs to complete a new W-4, the process should be quick and easy. Giving employees the freedom to manage their own data also reduces the risk of administration errors when making adjustments.
Our next tip is to keep your payroll records accurate. So there's a lot of information you need in order to keep your payroll accurate. And the first thing is on your side about the employer. So you need to make sure that you have your company's EIN, the name, address, zip code for your business location, as well as any state tax ID numbers for the states in which you do business. On the employee side, you also want to make sure that you have correct information about the employee's name, address, and social security number or tax identification number. You also want to keep really diligent track of all of the amounts that were paid to the employee. So that includes their total wages, tips, and other types of compensation. You also need to be sure that you're tracking the amount of federal income tax that was withheld, Social Security wages, Medicare eligible wages, employee tips, benefits, and then at the state level as well, wages and tips and any state income tax that was withheld. And then that same information also at the local level, so wages, tips, and tax withheld. Staying compliant and keeping track of your payroll records is really easy when you do that using a cloud application like Greenshades. The IRS requires you to keep your payroll. The IRS requires you to keep your payroll records for 4 years, removing the need for that manual labor. And so storing these records in a cloud-based system can help reduce the risk of lost data, including payroll admins who should be tracking employee earnings throughout the year. And then to effectively resolve those payroll discrepancies at year end, really important to make sure that you're reviewing your pay runs after every time you run your payroll to identify and rectify those errors early, canceling and then reprocessing payroll for affected employees. Ideally, you do this before checks are actually cut and payments are made. And then you can also notify relevant parties, including government agencies, if you need to, and then make sure you're keeping track and running reports of those changes in case you need to amend any of your quarterly or annual returns.
And our third tip is going to be to maintain compliance year round.
Yeah, so when you are getting to your income reporting, you need to make sure that you're reporting all of the taxable income. Basically, any income that employees are receiving is considered taxable, and it's important to make sure that you classify your employees and file the correct form. And if you have mismatched income, it may lead to issues later, both for your organization when you do quarterly and annual reporting, but it may also cause issues for your employees when they file their personal returns. Really important to make sure that you're reporting all of the income from various forms, including on W-2s, 1099s, and other methods. And before you start those year-end forms, we are coming up on the end of the time period to file your W-2s and 1099 NECs, but we have a couple months still on the rest of the 1099 series. So before you get too far into your year-end forms, you want to make sure that you verify all of your data, making edits, and making sure your source of truth is up to date, and then also checking your compliance levels for tax year 2023. So your Social Security wage base, healthcare FSA contribution limits, 401k contribution limits, as well as making sure you're ready for the 2024 FICA projection. You also have to make sure that you're filing your 941, which is the quarterly return with the federal government, as well as any quarterly returns you have with state and local governments. The totals from your 941s should match your W-2s at the end of the year. And you can use tax software like Greenshades in order to do those calculations and make sure everything's accurate.
Carefully and compliantly managing payroll throughout the year is key to ensuring filing information is accurate at year end. Payroll administrators need to be aware of and ensure any non-exempt employees are being paid in accordance with state, local, and federal minimum wage laws, as well as FLSA requirements. For employees working in multiple locations, admins will need to ensure they're meeting compliance requirements for all locations. In instances where employees have garnishments, admins need to be aware of and make sure they're meeting withholding requirements for those garnishments. Payroll admins also need to ensure they're managing payroll taxes accurately. Payroll admins should make sure they're using the correct withholding rates for federal, state, and local taxes, which are typically updated on an annual basis. For any employees filing exempt on their W-4, admins will need to get a new form on file by February 15th to maintain that exempt status. They should also remind employees to submit an updated W-4 if they have had any changes to their personal or financial situations. Now let's discuss leveraging technology to manage payroll. By automating payroll processes, payroll admins can help reduce the risk of errors. Ideally, a payroll system should provide automatic calculations for complicated situations and provide alerts when data may need to be validated. With Greenshades, admins can easily process payroll and will handle all the complex calculations, including tax, overtime, deductions, and more. After payroll is complete, Greenshades allows clients to sync their payroll information directly to their GL. With Greenshades' payroll platform, administrators can process compliant payroll with confidence. Greenshades' payroll platform helps administrators maintain FLSA guidelines, withhold state, federal, and local taxes properly, and withhold funds for garnishments orders accurately. With reminders about filings and payment requirements, admins can be confident that they're meeting deadlines, and automation can ensure payments and reports are submitted in a timely manner. The ADEA requires employers to maintain records for 2 years. With Greenshades' cloud-based system, payroll clients will be able to access historical pay records at any time. Admins have a lot of flexibility when processing payroll with Greenshades. Our platform supports unlimited pay run schedules, and off-cycle runs can be processed at any time. For clients managing multiple EINs, information from all companies can be managed from within the same portal, And Greenshades can handle tax calculations across multiple jurisdictions. Timesheet data can be updated up until a pay run is finalized, and after processing, if any errors are identified, admins can manage corrections themselves by running an adjustment run. Multiple wage types can be managed within Greenshades, and calculations such as overtime and shift differentials can be automated within the system.
So we are more or less at the end of our content for today. Thank you all for joining us. Just to wrap up, we'll talk a little bit about Greenshades. So Greenshades has over 20 years of experience in tax and compliance. We have the ability to help you manage and file W-2 and 1099 forms in a single unified process. We also offer employee self-service so that your employees can access their self-service tax forms and work on their 1040 personal returns on their own time. It's a comprehensive payroll, HR, and tax-based cloud all-in-one solution that supports your employee lifecycle from hire to retire. And specifically talking about Greenshades Payroll, this is an in-house solution configured to fit your unique needs. We have a really smart payroll wizard that swiftly identifies any areas of concern and a really intuitive workflow that streamlines the payroll process and easily submit results to your GL. Effortless, like really easy integration of your payroll data to the year-end forms so that you have a really easy January, which is really all that we want. There are many other products that are part of the Greenshades suite besides payroll and tax, so that also includes human resources, benefits administration, as well as time and labor management. And just to recap on what we talked about today, we talked about processing payroll in the cloud, keeping track of that critical employee information, how to avoid compliance errors all year and be ready for year end, and then how to utilize the technology that Greenshades offers to automate our process by keeping track of payroll and using technology to automate the filing season.
Thank you again to Hannah and to Amber for walking us through today's presentation. We really appreciate you all being here, and I hope you all have a fantastic one. Take care.